on this call. Nobody gets sick.
I think it's good we're...
All right. I think we're back on. Okay. Now let me share my screen with you guys. All right, so we're back on our FTPW. So many abbreviations in coaching, so many, but a new one for you. FTP, functional threshold power, functional threshold pace, that's what it stands for. But when we talk about running power, we put an R in front of it to just say running, and PW stands for power. So it's just one way to call it out so we know that it's specific. Another coaching abbreviation for you guys. So there is a write-up on RFTPW. There's a link to it, and you can go ahead and just access it right there whenever you guys want to get a little more deeper dive into it. So it is a strong indicator of your race potential, overall potential, okay, much like it is for power for biking. But we also talk a lot about form power. So it's not like if you walk up to somebody and say, hey Cliff, I have an FTP of 310 and yours is only 250, I'm going to beat you in this next 10K we're going to run. It doesn't work like that because form power becomes so important. So, you could surmise a little bit that, somebody who has a little bit more watts definitely has more to play with, but it depends on how they're using it that matters the most. If that's, you can really wrap your brain around this. So our power zones are calculated off of this single number. So we do need it to be accurate, and we do need to test for it. It is the metric we use to calculate intensity in all the plans for TriStar. So that's another reason to make it accurate and use it. And do we need to test all the time? No. You can use running data from races and or training to support our FTPW. You have to be a little skilled in that to see the changes in power. But for instance, if somebody says this was a perceived effort of a 4 and they're running at 95% of their RFTPW, then they're going to need an increase in their FTP. So I mentioned this before, if you switch manufacturers, you have to remember that your FTP will be inherently different than what you had before, and you need to test. So the TriStar testing sets that I recommend, we have two kind of popular power tests. One we call, which is a shorter one, and I think this is really more for our A and our B level athletes that we coach. And that's the 3 and 9 test. It's a 9-minute super hard test and a 3-minute hard TT. And then we have a 30-minute run time trial test. I can't get my words out tonight. Time trial test. And that one is what you guys are normally familiar with. That's our FTP test there. So pretty much the standard Joel Friel, his method for testing the FTP. And so yeah, you may want your shorter distance athletes to use the 3 and 9, or your newer athletes. The other reason to use the short 3 and 9 test is mainly the recovery time. So actually, you recover faster from the 3 and 9 test than you would the 30-minute runtime trial, which is, for a lot of people, that's 5K to 10K territory. So I like to use both. It depends on what my athletes are training for. It depends on how tired they are, what their block is that they're doing, and where they are in their training. So we can also use races like 5Ks and actually up to half marathon. For our more elite athletes, our C-level athletes, a half marathon is done pretty close to their run FTP. So we can use that and say, hey, that's 95%. And then in a 5K, we're going to say, okay, that's 100% for somebody who's a little slower. So it depends on how close their split is, but you can use those tests as proxy. The RFTPW does change regularly, as I said. So when you stop training, your power will drop, and with extended detraining, it will lower your FTP critically. So similarly, as you're training harder, you need to make sure you raise that FTP too. I think it changes a bit less than what we see in biking. So I actually think that you can look more to pace or heart rate even to help you confirm that is accurate. And certainly if the IF keeps creeping up and the perceived effort is not in line with what we would expect, then go ahead and start raising. Like, hey, I'm going to give you 5 more watts. Female athletes, you can kind of raise by 5 watts. Male athletes, it's sometimes between 8 and 10 watts, 8 and 10 watts. And if you're more than that, that's a big bump in FTP, and you have to really make sure you do it right. What happens if you don't have an accurate RFTPW? When set too low, this can overstate your actual fitness, and the gains may not be as great as they could be in training. And when set too high, this can underestimate the total training load, and you can get sick or injured. So that's not good either. Accuracy as best you can. Leg stiffness. This is not like tight legs or tight muscles or anything like that. It's, as I mentioned before, it's a calculation actually in a real value that's calculated called LSS, leg stiffness. And it's really, the more stiff your legs are, the less energy you must produce to propel yourself forward with each step. So we get leg stiffness from doing things like hill repeats in running, squatting, dynamic power motions in the gym, and different things that make our muscles able to use a combination of fast twitch and slow twitch muscles to propel us forward. You can watch the metric on your watch if you want to, and to try and make that value improve. What we're tracking is trends in LSS per kilogram of body weight. So we're, these are things that I think that are good to know for now for you guys. They're not going to be your day-to-day thing that you're going to be operating with. But for some of your athletes who have more intellectual curiosity, or who are struggling on the run perhaps and they really want to get into it, this data is rich and it's here for you to use it. So that's the end of the call there, guys. Let me back out. Hopefully you can see me. There we go. Any questions on that? I know there's a lot of different nuances to this. This is kind of really like overview of just how Runpower works. I think as far as application goes, you really have to make sure that the athlete is collecting the information. It's kind of useless if they only do a couple runs with it and they're on my old shoes or my new shoes. It's much like biking. If you don't have a lot of data, it kind of doesn't tell you the story. And then the accuracy is important, but I think it doesn't get as out of whack because of the algorithms that are inherent in the shoes. The foot pod does need to be very strong to the laces. You don't want that thing moving around, otherwise you're going to get weird information. So that's it. That's it. Questions, thoughts, concerns?
No, I'm going to have to get mine set up, and then I'll have questions, thoughts, concerns.
Oh yeah, we'll take care of all of that after the call. Call tech support. We have to get tech support in India on the line for that stuff.
Wait, I think Megan's talking. Are you talking, Megan?
Oh wait, we can't hear you.